up everyone? So continuing the award season coverage, today on the channel I'm going to be doing a deep dive discussion and prediction of one of the most exciting and toughest races to call this year. It is of course Best Actress. In this category we have Annette Bening for Nyad, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, and Emma Stone for Poor Things. If you've been following the awards season race, then you're probably aware that this category has pretty much turned into a two-way race at this point between Emma Stone for Poor Things and Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. Some people have dubbed this race the Stone Age or the Battle of the Stones. I also think that Sandra Hüller is the dark horse in this race. I put her in third position, I'd say, right now, and while I don't think she will win the Best Actress Oscar, I can see a pathway for her to win. I'm going to discuss that later in the video, but before we jump into that, we do have to ask ourselves, is there a chance that the other two contenders in this category can win? God. Well, when it comes to Annette Bening, I hope not. But let's play devil's advocate. Is there a pathway for Annette Bening to win? I mean, never say never, but it doesn't seem very likely. For one thing, Nyad only got 2 nominations, so the movie overall isn't viewed as, a big contender. The movie Nyad also received mixed reviews. I'm not sure there's a lot of love and support for this film. Annette Bening also hasn't won any precursors, and she also missed a BAFTA. What Annette Bening does have, though, is a narrative. She kind of has that overdue narrative of, an industry veteran who's been around a while, long overdue for an Oscar win. She's been nominated 4 times previously before Nyad. This is her 5th, still not won. So yeah, there's always that little argument to be made that, should we honor Annette Bening for a collective body of work that she's done over her whole career? But the counter argument to that is, look at Glenn Close. She was up for her 7th nomination when she was nominated for The Wife, had the overdue career narrative working for her. And again, like The Wife, Nyad isn't a very strong movie. It didn't get a lot of nominations. So yeah, if Glenn Close can't win for her 7th, I don't think there's much clout to the argument that Annette Bening deserves to win for her 5th here. Not for this type of movie where the movie overall isn't viewed as anything overly special. Also, everything about Annette Bening's performance as Nyad just feels very Oscar baity. Like, it just feels like she was trying very hard to tick all the right boxes in order to get awards recognition. Like, she was playing a real life person. The role was very physically demanding because she did a lot of swimming. She's also a straight woman playing a queer character. The Academy loves that. It's one of those roles which is a triumph of the human spirit because she's playing a real life person who, had to overcome some incredible odds and a lot of adversity to achieve their goal, and they did. So yeah, it just ticks a lot of Oscar baity criteria. And I guess another positive for Annette Bening is that she's playing a character who is a little bit older and, does something incredible, and I can see how older members of the Academy would resonate with a story about someone who, is past their prime, but still manages to accomplish something extraordinary. It's kind of like reaffirming and inspiring for those, older members of the Academy to get behind. But yeah, I just don't see Annette Bening winning for this performance. I don't think there's enough passion behind it. I think for Annette Bening, the nomination here is the victory for her because she was never guaranteed to get the nomination in the first place, and she managed to beat out some pretty big competitors like Margot Robbie for Barbie, Greta Lee for Past Lives, and also Kaylee Spaney for Priscilla. So yeah, out of the 5 nominees for Best Actress, Annette Bening seems like the least likeliest to win the Oscar. What about Carey Mulligan? Does she have a chance? Well, Maestro wasn't hated by the Academy. It did get 7 nominations, which is a pretty good haul. And Carey Mulligan is the only one of the 5 Best Actress nominees at the Oscars, apart from Emma Stone, who managed to get nominated at all 5 of the big awards ceremonies. So Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, SAG, BAFTA, and the Oscar. This is Carey Mulligan's 3rd Oscar nomination, but you can't really make the claim that Carey Mulligan is overdue for a win this year when you've got Annette Bening right there, who's on her 5th nomination and hasn't won yet. And like Annette Bening, it's another performance which feels very Oscar baity, like it's trying quite hard for awards recognition. Like, she's playing a real life person. There's transformation going on because of, you know, the hair and makeup. There's plenty of moments in the film which feel like Oscar clips. But yeah, her character does undergo some tragedy as well. Usually that does help in an Oscars campaign. I still don't think there's a lot of passion for Maestro compared to other movies and performances. So I don't think this is Carey Mulligan's time, sadly. She may have got all the precursor noms, but she didn't win any. There's no evidence to suggest that she might surprise at the Oscars. Interesting thing to point out is that both Annette Bening and Carey Mulligan are both in Netflix films and playing real life people, and neither one of them is going to win. Okay, so now that we've ruled out Annette Bening and Carey Mulligan, let's talk about the other three contenders who I can see any one of these three winning, but I do think out of those three, Sandra Hüller, Lily Gladstone, and Emma Stone, that Sandra Hüller has the weakest chance to win here. And for obvious reasons, okay, she, for one, hasn't won any major precursors. But yes, also, Sandra Hüller missed the SAG nomination, which is a tough stat to overcome because in the 30 years that the SAGs have been around, no Best Actress winner at the Oscar has managed to win Best Actress at the Oscars without at least having a SAG nomination prior. And while I was expected that Sandra Hüller wasn't expected to get the nomination at SAG, she kind of would have needed the BAFTA win to indicate that she still had the legs to win the Oscar, but she didn't win at BAFTA, she lost to Emma Stone there. So going into Oscars night, Sandra Hüller is at a major disadvantage because she doesn't have the SAG nomination and she also didn't win at BAFTA. She doesn't have either of those and no other precursor wins for that matter. Yes, she does have the Caesar Award. But yeah, not really a big factor when it comes to predicting the Oscars. But there is still like a very slim, dimly litted pathway for Sandra Hüller to maybe surprise at the Oscars. And that's because Anatomy of a Fall is doing quite well. It's been surging. As a film, it did pretty well at the Oscars, okay? It got 5 nominations, all in key categories. So Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Screenplay, Original Screenplay, and Best Editing, okay? That is like a winner's package. Granted, Sandra Hüller's movie doesn't have as many nominations as her two closest competitors' movies, Lily Gladstone's The Killer of the Flower Moon or Emma Stone's Poor Things. They have 10 and 11, respectively. But the film still has those key nominations, which is something. What also helps Sandra Hüller is the fact that she is in 2 Best Picture contenders this year, okay? The Zone of Interest and Anatomy of a Fall, and they're very different performances showcasing her versatility. So some voters might be thinking, oh, she gives 2 very different performances here. I feel like I might just give my vote to Sandra Hüller for this amazing year she's had, and yeah, for the incredibly barnstorming performance that she gives in Anatomy of a Fall. Also, there's the argument to be made that because Sandra Hüller is German, that she might be the nominee from Best Actress who has the largest international appeal. Like, she could have support from the European voters. And because her performance in Anatomy of a Fall is a trilingual performance where she does a lot of talking in English, you know, that does make her performance a little bit more accessible to English-speaking voters. But on the flip side of that argument, she was nominated for Best Actress at BAFTA and she still lost there despite there being a large section of voters who are, you know, European, and they still didn't go for it. It's really hard to justify her winning at the Oscars when she didn't win at BAFTA. Like I said before, the 2 frontrunners in this category are Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone. And the only way that I can really see Sandra Hüller beating both those 2 is if Emma Stone and Lily Gladstone have split enough voters, like, down to the middle, and they're so close, but there's enough of a last-minute surge and passion for Sandra Hüller for her to squeeze up the middle of both Gladstone and Stone and just clinch the win. It's very unlikely it's going to happen, but I can see that pathway. That's the only way I can see Sandra Hüller winning at this point. And I would love to see it happen. It would definitely be a shock and a surprise, a very pleasant surprise as well. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm just saying I can see the pathway for Sandra Hüller. Okay, so now let's talk about the 2 frontrunners, Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone. Let's start off with Lily Gladstone. So what does she have working for her? Well, Killers did pretty well at the Oscars. It got 10 nominations. Gladstone's also playing a real-life person, Molly Burkhart, and she endures a lot of tragedy in this film. What's amazing about Lily Gladstone is that while a lot of people like myself presumed she was going to be in the supporting actress and then switch to lead actress, that switch didn't hurt her campaign at all. Like, she ended up collecting loads of trophies in the critics groups. When you compare that to Michelle Williams last year, who everyone thought would go supporting but went to lead, she missed at BAFTA, she missed at SAG, she got in at the Oscars obviously. But yeah, other than Gladstone missing the BAFTA, it hasn't really damaged her campaign all that much. Gladstone also has the history-making narrative on her side, because if she does win, she'll be the first ever Indigenous American woman to ever win in this category, okay? First of a kind, always very exciting to see. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Lily Gladstone falls under the LGBTQ+ umbrella as well. She's won the most in the critics groups as well as the Golden Globe, and most importantly, she won SAG. SAG is really important now for two reasons, actually. First of all, if you win the SAG award, it implies that you have the support of actors, which is the largest voting branch of the Academy. So it's good to have that, because it means the largest chunk of the Academy are probably going to be voting for you. And secondly, now that the running order of the precursors has changed, where SAG is the final precursor before Oscars, it means you've got that last minute surge in Oscar voting to, you know, make an impact and carry that momentum over into the Oscars. That's something to note though, that SAG has only been the last precursor before the Oscars the last 2 years. And if you remember last year, all 4 of the acting winners at SAG went on to win the Oscars. So yeah, are we gonna have a repeat of last year with all 4 of the acting winners at SAG winning at the Oscars this year? It could happen. So yeah, what really stakes Lily Gladstone's place in the race is the fact that she won the SAG award, because it was the last precursor before the Oscars, and Oscar voting was still taking place after she won. So she has that last minute surge now to win the Oscar. But yeah, regardless of whatever precursor is prior to the Oscars, you should always look at that going into Oscars night, because whether it's BAFTA or SAG, usually whoever wins at the prior precursor, they're the people that go on to win it. Like the year where Frances McDormand won for Nomadland and Anthony Hopkins won for The Father, they won at the prior precursor, which was BAFTA, then won the Oscar. So yeah, you really do have to take into consideration the prior precursor before the Oscars. This year it's SAG. But yeah, just because Lily Gladstone won the SAG, it doesn't mean that her victory at the Oscars is guaranteed, okay? There are some things that are working against her. For one, she did miss at BAFTA, okay? And while I would say it's gonna be much harder for Sandra Hüller to win without a SAG nomination than it is for Lily Gladstone to win without a BAFTA nomination, it still does help to have that BAFTA nomination, even if you don't win. Because only 11 times since like the year 2000 have Oscar winners managed to win without a BAFTA nomination, okay? So it can be done though. Like Lily Gladstone could join the likes of Sandra Bullock for The Blind Side, or Melissa Leo for The Fighter, or Matthew McConaughey for Dallas Buyers Club. They all managed to win the Oscar without a BAFTA nomination. But also BAFTA has a very unique way of selecting the nominees for the category, because 3 are decided by, you know, the whole voting membership of BAFTA, and then a jury selects the other 3. And Lily Gladstone didn't get one of the top 3 spots, obviously, and then the jury decided not to put her in there. Which brings me into my next point of what's working against Lily Gladstone here, is the fact that there is still a little bit of debate and discrepancy over how some people view Lily Gladstone's categorization of lead actress, okay? Because some people do view the performance as more of a supporting performance rather than lead. So we do have to take into consideration that some Oscar voters might not view Lily Gladstone's performance as a genuine lead performance. And one of the things to bring up is the same point that I made in my SAG predictions video, is that Lily Gladstone's performance in Killers of the Flower Moon is more subtle and internalized than some of the other showier performances in this category, okay? And with the Oscars, generally, they don't typically acknowledge subtle performances, but the fact that she won at SAG, you know, with the largest voting branch going for that performance, does indicate that she could overcome that sort of tradition of giving it to a bigger, more showy performance. So while history suggests they don't go for, you know, the subtler, quieter, delicate performances like Gladstone's, the fact that she won at SAG does sort of indicate that they might be pivoting towards a new style of acting, especially like Cillian Murphy also being the frontrunner now for Oppenheimer, which is also another performance which is very subtle, and he conveys a lot with his eyes, just like Gladstone. Whereas Gladstone's closest competitor, Emma Stone's performance in Poor Things, is a little bit more showier than Gladstone's is, okay? Because Emma Stone's having to show the gradual evolution of Bella Baxter as a person, showing that through her physicality, her verbal skills. You see the growth. It's a very transformational performance from Emma Stone. And just based off the Best Actress winners that the Academy has selected in the last few decades, Emma Stone's performance in Poor Things feels more akin to what they would acknowledge over a subtle, delicate performance like Gladstone's in Killers of the Flower Moon. But, of course, you know, trends are made to be broken and they do surprise us from time to time. But yeah, just based on recent history, there's a very good chance that Lily Gladstone is going to win this because Lily Gladstone's track record over award season with the precursors mirrors Michelle Yeoh's exactly, because they both won the Golden Globe, they lost the BAFTA and the Critics' Choice Award, but then they both won the SAG. And then, yeah, will Lily Gladstone snatch that Oscar like Michelle Yeoh did? They also both have that history-making narrative because Michelle Yeoh was the first Southeast Asian woman to ever win in this category. And Lily Gladstone will be the first Indigenous American woman to ever win this category, if she does win. So yeah, Lily Gladstone's train is on the same tracks as Michelle Yeoh's is, she's just one stop behind. But also, as we've seen in the past, just because you have a narrative on your side doesn't necessarily mean that the Oscars are going to go for it, okay? Look at Glenn Close with her overdue narrative. Look at Chadwick Boseman with his sympathetic posthumous win for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, okay? They don't always go for it. Just because they can make history doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to make history. But it is important to note that Lily Gladstone's situation isn't identical to Michelle Yeoh's, okay? They do have some key differences, okay? Because for one, Michelle Yeoh, she might not have won the BAFTA, but she was at least nominated there. But also Michelle Yeoh was the lead character in the big Best Picture winner that year, the Oscars, okay? Everything Ever All at Once won 7 awards, okay? It was the big sweeper of the night, whereas with Killers of the Flower Moon, even though it's got 10 nominations, the best chance for Killers to win an Oscar is for Lily Gladstone for Best Actress. Just realize though that Killers of the Flower Moon is a Martin Scorsese movie with 10 Oscar nominations, and Martin Scorsese's previous film, The Irishman, also got 10 nominations and went home empty-handed, and there's a chance that history could repeat itself here if Gladstone doesn't end up winning Best Actress. Can you imagine 2 Martin Scorsese films, each with 10 Best Picture nominations, winning none? That would be kind of crazy, wouldn't it? A little bit sad as well, considering like Killers of the Flower Moon is one of his best movies ever. So yeah, while I know it's easy to compare Lily Gladstone to Michelle Yeoh last year because they have the same track record with the precursors, it's important just to take stock of the fact that there are some differences between them. But the question that we really need to be asking ourselves is, for Lily Gladstone, is there the same amount of passion for Lily Gladstone as there was Michelle Yeoh? It's hard to tell, but I don't think Lily Gladstone is in as strong as a position as Michelle Yeoh was last year, because Michelle Yeoh had more going for her than Lily Gladstone did last year. For one, Michelle Yeoh had the BAFTA nomination. She was in the Best Picture frontrunner, and it eventually did go on to win. Michelle Yeoh was the obvious lead in her film. There was no talk of category fraud, no discrepancy of whether she was in the right category or not. They both do have similar history-making narratives, but also Michelle Yeoh had sort of the overdue narrative because she had been overlooked for previous nominations that she could have been nominated for at the Oscars, whereas this is like, you know, the first Oscar nomination of Lily Gladstone. It's sort of her introduction to the Academy. And obviously this role has opened a lot of doors for Lily Gladstone. It'll probably get more work in the future, more chances to be nominated. Whereas, you know, Michelle Yeoh was quite late into her career. And with Lily Gladstone, while I wouldn't say this is the beginning of her career, she has been around for a bit, I would say she's still sort of like in the early stages of her career, but this role has really put her on the map. Whereas Michelle Yeoh, she won an Oscar for the later stages in her career, the celebration of a rich body of work, a long career. So she doesn't have the same narrative as what Michelle Yeoh had. And there's also one last thing to discuss regarding Lily Gladstone's SAG win, which is very important, okay? It's very critical. It's very good that she got that, but there is something to note of how her SAG win differs a little bit to Michelle Yeoh's, because last year when Michelle Yeoh won the SAG, she won on, I believe it was the 26th of February, but Oscar voting didn't open until the 2nd of March. So she had the whole 5 days of Oscar voting, plus the late surge buzz that, you know, Everything Everywhere got from the SAG Awards, okay? People were going into the entirety of Oscar voting with that late surge buzz for Everything Everywhere All at Once and Michelle Yeoh's performance. Where it differs for Lily Gladstone this year is the fact that the SAG Awards were on 2 days after Oscar voting had already started, okay? So that means that Lily Gladstone only had 3 days to capitalize on her win at the SAG Awards and get those last minute votes in. So it means there were 2 days of Oscar voting where the early bird Oscar voters had already placed their votes, and some of them might have already had, you know, some post-BAFTA love for Emma Stone, or might have been feeling sympathetic for Sandra Hüller, okay? Allegiances might have been different before Lily Gladstone won the SAG Award, okay? So that's another thing just to take into consideration, is that while both Michelle Yeoh and Lily Gladstone won the SAG Award and can carry that win into the Oscars, Gladstone doesn't have the full advantage of all 5 days of Oscar voting that Michelle Yeoh had, okay? That's just something to mention, okay? But the question we really should be asking is, how many Oscar voters were waiting for the outcome at the SAGs before they made their final votes for the Oscars? Because who knows, maybe those 3 days of Oscar voting was still enough to clinch Lily Gladstone the win. So we talked plenty about Lily Gladstone, let's move on to our final contender, which is Emma Stone for Poor Things. Like Killers of the Flower Moon, Poor Things did very well at the Academy Awards, okay? It got 11 nominations, which is one more than Killers. It's also a performance which is a showcase of Emma Stone's abilities and skills as an actress, as well as her versatility, because as Bella Baxter, she is funny and charming. She also has some emotionally devastating moments as she matures. And yes, you see a lot of physicality in her performance, a lot of comedic timing, and she also does an accent as well, because Bella Baxter is English. She is also indisputably the lead character of Poor Things. It's Bella Baxter's journey, and it is one of those movies where you can literally see the evolution of the character throughout. You see the growth, and it's a very rewarding experience to see that transformation of a character, to see them go from point A to point B. So yeah, Poor Things is very much Emma Stone's film. So yeah, while I wouldn't label Emma Stone's performance as baity or Oscar baity, I would label it as showy, because it is a showcase of what Emma Stone can do. What's also working for Emma Stone is that she has won the most precursors. She won the Golden Globe, she won the Critics' Choice Award, and she's won the BAFTA. And like Carey Mulligan, Emma Stone hasn't missed a single precursor nomination. When it comes to Emma Stone's negatives, I would say what's working against her is the fact that she has already won in this category for La La Land back in 2017. She also missed the SAG Award, which is the last big precursor before the Oscars, so she doesn't really have the momentum on her side. It also implies she doesn't have the support of the biggest branch of Academy voters, which is actors, and also genre bias, because she is the lead character in a fantasy sci-fi movie, okay? Roles like that don't often get nominated at the Oscars, let alone win them. It's essentially a Frankenstein story. They don't typically tend to acknowledge those types of roles, but just last year, you can say Michelle Yeoh did win for a goofy sci-fi movie, so there's a little bit, you know, overlap with Emma Stone and Michelle Yeoh as well. So yeah, it's a very tough one to call this year. If your argument here is that Emma Stone's not going to win because she's previously won in this category, that argument isn't going to hold up in Oscars court, because as we've seen in the past, the Academy don't mind giving someone a second or third Oscar. Frances McDormand won for 3 Billboards and Nomadland. Mahershala Ali won for Moonlight and Green Book. The same with Christoph Waltz for Inglourious Basterds and Django Unchained. But we need to ask ourselves, who has the better winner's package here? As a rule, I would say you're best off predicting with whoever won at the precursor that was prior to the Oscars, regardless of whether that's BAFTA or SAG. This year it was SAG, so Lily Gladstone won there. That implies she has the momentum as well as the support of the actors branch, okay? And with last year, all 4 of the actors SAG went on to win the Oscars, okay? So there's a very logical argument that Lily Gladstone could go all the way and win. And also, out of the 2 of them, she does seem to have the more traditional type of Best Actress winning role, you know, a real life person who endures a lot of tragedy, compared to Emma Stone, who is arguably more of a leading character than Lily Gladstone is, but she is in a genre movie, which is giving me pause for thought as to who is gonna end up winning the Oscar. Okay, so where do I stand with the Best Actress category? Well, I just want to start off by saying that if any one of the 3 of Lily Gladstone, Emma Stone, or Sandra Hüller end up winning, I will be very happy, okay? Because I love all of these performances. They're all very different from one another. They all show off different skills and whatnot. So yeah, regardless of who wins, as long as it's one of those 3, I'll be happy. If it ends up going to Nyad, oh my god. I don't even want to put that out into the universe. But yeah, god, if it did, I would end up breaking something, I know it. But yeah, I will be fine with any one of those three winning. But if I had to pick a personal fave, my rankings of the top three contenders would be, just for me, Sandra Hüller at number 1, and then Emma Stone at number 2, even though I absolutely adore her as Bella Baxter. It is my favorite Emma Stone performance, for the record. I think it's just the fact that she's already won an Oscar that puts her in at number 2. If she hadn't won the Oscar for La La Land, I probably would be championing Emma Stone to win this year. But because she already has an Oscar, I kind of do want to see Sandra Hüller win a little bit more. And then in third place, obviously, is Lily Gladstone. But again, that's a history-making win. It would be a very cool win, an exciting win. But yeah, that's how I personally rank those three performances. And again, whoever wins, I'm going to be happy for them. But yeah, when it comes to making my final prediction, I'm not going to be brave and predict that Sandra Hüller wins here, even though she's who I'd like to see win here the most. I'm just not convinced it's going to happen, a surprise win for Sandra Hüller. Like, she really would have needed the BAFTA win in order for me to, justify the idea of her, sneaking up the middle between the two, the Battle of the Stones. So yeah, as much as I would love to see Sandra Hüller win, I'm not going to predict her. I do think it is going to go to either Emma Stone or Lily Gladstone. Oh my days. I think personal bias for Emma Stone's performance might be clouding my judgment here, but a part of me really does think that Lily Gladstone's win here isn't as assured as Michelle Yeoh's was last year, because that was the best picture frontrunner last year, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't have the same confidence with Killers of the Flower Moon. Like, I just don't think there's enough passion and excitement for Killers as there was for Everything Everywhere All at Once. So while there is excitement to the idea of Lily Gladstone winning, I'm still not sure it's to the same level that Michelle Yeoh had last year. So this is a challenge to call. But like I said before, the victor, whoever wins the precursor that's prior to the Oscars, usually does end up winning it. So yeah, Gladstone does seem like the logical, more safer pick, I'd say, between her and Emma Stone this year. But I am wondering, are we putting too much stock and faith in the fact that Michelle Yeoh won last year? Are we letting that influence our decision here because of recency bias? Are we expecting the exact same outcome as last year? History does tend to repeat itself with the Oscars, and yeah, Lily Gladstone's track record is pretty much identical to Michelle Yeoh's last year when it comes to the precursors. But yeah, is it just recency bias? But yeah, I can't ignore Gladstone's win at SAG, okay? It's too significant, okay? It's the last precursor before the Oscars. It is critical. So I really should be going for Lily Gladstone here. She does feel like the more logical, safer pick. But there are a few factors I do need to take into consideration about this award season race, like the fact that Lily Gladstone only had 3 days to capitalize on her SAG win, whereas Michelle Yeoh had 5. She also doesn't have the BAFTA nomination. There's not as much passion for Killers as there was Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's not a Best Picture frontrunner. And is the fact that there is some ambiguity over Gladstone's performance being a lead or a supporting going to hurt Gladstone's chances of winning? It is very, very tough to call this one. But I'm glad it's not an easy one to predict because, just last week I thought the pathway had been lit for Emma Stone to win her second Oscar, but when Lily Gladstone won at the SAG, it just made the race so much more interesting, okay? Like, it really is super duper close now. It's really coming down to the wire. The win for Gladstone at SAG was a huge victory for her, okay? It is a big deal. The question is, though, does she have the momentum, or was that just a SAG thing? It's hard to tell. Is the exact same thing as last year gonna happen, where all 4 of the SAG winners go on to win the Oscar? If it does happen, then yeah, people will just be predicting the 4 the prior precursor, whether it's SAG or BAFTA, to go on to win the Oscar from now on, because it just illustrates that momentum really is a big deal. But I will say, out of the 4 winners at SAG, Lily Gladstone does feel like the one who is most likely not to win the Oscar. Everyone else, Divine, Robert Downey Jr. and Cillian Murphy, feel more assured. But yes, Lily Gladstone is, it's a swing vote between her and Emma Stone at this point. I can see it going either way. Do I want to predict 4 for 4 at SAG? Not really. I feel like that's too simple. But yeah, part of me thinks it's not going to be exactly the same as last year. It could be, but I feel like it's more likely going to be 3 out of 4 instead of 4 out of 4. I'm just realizing though now, when it comes to Oscars trends, our Best Actress contenders do have to overcome some historical trends here, because Sandra Hüller would need to win without a SAG nomination. Lily Gladstone would need to win without a BAFTA nomination. For Emma Stone, there is no big obstacle for her to overcome. So yeah, again, that sort of lends support to the idea of Emma Stone winning, because there's less obstacles for her to overcome as opposed to the other contenders. But yeah, when it comes to making this final prediction, history really does suggest that the person who won at the prior precursor is gonna go on to win the Oscar, whether that's BAFTA or SAG. They do tend to win more often than not. So logic dictates it's Lily Gladstone's to win. She also has the history-making win on her side. If she wins, she becomes the first ever Native American woman to win in this category ever, okay? It's a watershed win, it's an exciting win, it's a cool win, and yeah, when the race is this close as well, I can also see some voters rationalizing, who to vote for by going, well, Emma Stone already has an Oscar. Do I need to give her a second one when I can give someone their first Oscar whilst also making history by giving it to them? It would also be really cool if Gladstone won, because it's a different type of performance that's being honored for Best Actress as opposed to the usual Oscar baity, biopic-y roles, the very dramatic ones with a lot of screaming, yelling, crying, transformational makeup and all that. It'd be really cool to see a performance like Gladstone's where it's very subtle and internalized. It would be wonderful to see that type of acting honored at the Oscars more so in the future. And if both Cillian Murphy and Gladstone do win, then it does sort of pave the way for more performances like those to win in the future, and I'd love to see more of that. So yeah, if Lily Gladstone does end up winning Best Actress, I will be thrilled for her. I think it's a win that will age really well, and there is enough evidence to suggest that it is going to happen for Lily Gladstone. But there's still this nagging feeling in my gut, which I cannot shake, which is that I feel like Emma Stone might still win this. I know she already has a win for La La Land and she doesn't really need it like Lily Gladstone does, but I just think Emma Stone's performance is more the type of performance that the Academy would go for. It's a little bit showier than Gladstone's is, but the main difference between Emma Stone and Lily Gladstone's films is that Emma Stone really is Poor Things, okay? She is the primary central character, and it is the journey of Bella Baxter that the audience goes on. Whereas with Lily Gladstone, while she is the primary main female character and she is pivotal to the story, it's not so much her journey we're on. A lot of the story is happening around her. A lot of it's happening to her passively. So I'd say she's not as much of a main character in Killers as Emma Stone is in Poor Things, okay? You only have to compare their runtimes to see how much more screen time Emma Stone has compared to Lily Gladstone, which is probably the reason why some people view Lily Gladstone as a supporting character, whereas there's no doubt over Emma Stone being the lead in Poor Things. So regardless of who ends up winning between Stone or Gladstone, either one of their wins I think would age really well, because on the one hand you've got a subtler, nuanced performance like Lily Gladstone winning, and that very rarely wins. That's good to see win. Or on the other hand, you've got a performance in an unorthodox genre movie, which doesn't often win either. So yeah, they are wins that both, I feel, will age well. So yeah, while Emma Stone doesn't have the SAG win, which is concerning, she did get every precursor nom, and she does have the most precursor wins of Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, and BAFTA. Her performance is a little bit more of a showcase, I would say, than Gladstone's. And even though she has won in this category before, a lot of people do think, myself included, that this is Emma Stone's best performance to date, and would be very cool to see this performance win. When you cut right down to the cheese, Lily Gladstone has the momentum and the juicy history-making narrative, whereas Emma Stone has more precursor wins. Lily Gladstone is now the bookie's favorite. I've seen a lot of people jump ship to her, and I understand why, and I do kind of feel the desire to also jump ship to her, but I'm still having that instinctual gut feeling about Emma Stone, and I don't like it when I ignore my gut instinct, because it stings so much more if I end up jumping ship and that person loses and my instinct was right all along and I just ignored it because, yeah, I just followed the crowd like a sheep. And while it feels like the safer prediction to go with Lily Gladstone, I know it will hurt a lot more if Emma Stone does end up winning it and I just jumped ship and ignored my gut instinct. That would hurt me more. What's giving me pause for thought is that my instinctual gut feeling this whole of award season has been so off this year. Like, I've had so many gut instincts that didn't prove out to turn out to be real. Like, I predicted Sandra Hüller to win Best Actress at BAFTA. That was a gut instinct. It didn't pay off. I predicted that Poor Things would win Best Adapted Screenplay at BAFTA. That didn't pay off. At the SAGs, I thought Paul Giamatti would win Best Actor. Gut instinct, didn't pay off. And Barbie winning SAG Award. Those were all wrong, okay? I've had a terrible time of it this this award season, trusting my gut, which is really annoying. But I do know I will be really annoyed with myself if I give up on my gut instinct at the last one, the big one, the Oscars, and it does turn out to be Emma Stone, and I just, flocked over to Lily Gladstone because it made the most sense statistically. Yeah, it's tough. Do I listen to my gut, or do I follow the crowd and follow the stats? It's so hard. It's really difficult. But I'm gonna stick with my gut, because no guts, no glory. I really do believe that, okay? And while it is really tempting and makes a lot of sense to go Lily Gladstone, my final prediction for the 2024 Best Actress Oscar is Emma Stone for Poor Things. I may come to regret that decision, but yeah, it paid off for me last year with Brendan Fraser for Best Actor. And yeah, it's always more satisfying if you do go with your gut and it does turn out to be correct. Yeah, even though my gut has been so wrong this award season, hopefully I'm overdue for a correct gut instinct now. But I guess we'll find out on March 10th. But there you go, guys. That's my discussion and prediction of the Best Actress category 2024. What do you think of Best Actress this year? Who is going to win and why? Whatever you have to say about this category, let me know in the comment section down below. Love hearing from you guys. Love hearing your thoughts. If you have enjoyed this video, do help me out by hitting the thumbs up button. My goal is to get to 10,000 subscribers this year, so if you can help me out by hitting the subscribe button, that'd be wonderful. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, the Oscars, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Harefield, and I'll see you next time.